Okay, no, thanks a lot, Ishan, and we'll move on to the next person. This is really good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, Peter. Can I go next?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. Currently, I've implemented all of the things that were discussed in the last week, like the key generation. The keys are generated whenever the user installs the app on their phone, and I've created the changed the API so that whenever they log in for the first time, their public key will be transferred via the API to the server, and it will be stored there. Moreover, I have created functions for encrypting the messages. So whenever there is a chat, um, the app will mix the private key of the user and the public key of the recipient, and encrypt the chats based on that. So the PR is ready. I was just waiting for my previous PR to be merged, the password encryption thing. One of the tests was failing in that because it was saying that I have changed unauthorized files. That was because I had modified perspec.yml. So whenever that gets merged, I will open the PR for this one.
Okay,
So that is the progress. Moreover, I wanted to discuss how should we go about implementing the SSL pinning. So I have two options for that. One being that we can let the users decide, like the church or the communities that will be using our app, and they can generate their own certificates from their server, and then in that case they'll need to build the app themselves too, because in that case the certificate will need to be given to the code base and then built upon. Second thing that we can do is we can fetch the certificate whenever the user first installs the app. But the problem being, if we are sending the certificate over the network, a man in the middle attack is possible. Like someone can provide a forged certificate, and that will not work in the long term. So I had two options. The second is quite easy to implement and for the communities to use, but is less secure. The first one is more secure, but will pose a lot of work on the community. So whatever you people decide, I'll go with that.
is there a way in which we could use a token mechanism as an interim while you're doing the negotiation to do the cert download, so that there is at least less likelihood of a man in the middle? I'm not very familiar with this sort of system, so I'm just asking that out of curiosity.
Yeah, so all of that can be done. The thing that I am saying is like we discussed GSoC, like we have to minimize the work for the communities, right? We don't want to give them everything to build and host and generate certificates and all. So even in the case of tokens, they will need to set up their server like such. And moreover, even in the app, we need to know the server from which we will be fetching the certificate in the first place. So that will need to be done. Otherwise, I think the token mechanism is a good middle way from both ends.
Yeah, I see what you're talking about. Um, yeah, the thing that we don't want is for people to be like, many of these organizations are not going to have the technical staff to do a lot of rebuilds, etc. So there's a way in which we can do it such that it is relatively quick and easy to do while minimizing the risk for the man in the middle attack. That would be best. I know that we're already creating tokens for the API, for example. Can us, and so therefore, can that mechanism be used at all?
I was also thinking like, is there any possibility
Mhm.
that we can use our servers? Like, we can have the registered community. Like, if you want to use our app, you come to our website, maybe palisados.org, and then sign up or something like that, so that you prove that you are a community who is using our app, and then maybe we can have their certificate, and the palisados.org cert can be automatically inserted inside the app because we have the code base, and in that case we'll be 100% sure that the palisados.org server is secure, and whatever certificate is coming from that server is 100% secure too. So, but in that case, we'll need to have our servers always running. So that may be a
Right.
problem.
Yeah, that's the concern. I want for an open source project, for a project that is manned almost exclusively by volunteers. That though I know that would be best practice for an organization that is an ongoing concern, we need to think about it in such a way that the user base is as independent as possible, with a minimization of the interactions that we have to do. Does anybody have any experience with this? I know, I think Dominic at some point had expressed a solution in the past. Dominic, do you have any ideas on this?
I think it's probably instructive to kind of just look at how other open source communities are doing this. So, for example, Signal was seen as a better, well, not better, but more transparent WhatsApp. And I know that they offer the possibility to kind of self-host for different, whatever organization may be interested in doing that. I'm not entirely sure how they do this, but I imagine it would be more or less the same method that we'd have to implement on our end. And but we don't have that much resources as like the people who maintain Signal. So we'd have to see where the pain points are and modify those accordingly.
Yeah, so actually, I read the research paper that the Signal organization published. Actually, the WhatsApp app also uses the Signal protocol for their encryption. But the thing being that even in the case of the Signal app or the WhatsApp app, they have their own centralized servers, and whenever we are installing the app, we are installing their build. So they have already injected the certificate in that. And anything apart from that is quite advanced. Like I went quite deep in their research paper, and they were implementing encryption on per message basis. Like the shared key changes on each message, so that there is complete forward secrecy. But uh, since I am alone managing this project, it will not be very feasible to implement given the time span. So we will need to think upon a very easy solution that can be implemented quite readily.
So I just thought of something. Firebase offers like a free tier, right? For some until you reach like a certain amount of calls.
Correct.
So if you have an associated email address that hasn't been already registered in Firebase, then you basically have a free trial of like the Talawa app up until.
Correct.
So if we had something that more or less just creates a like a dummy email address and then creates a Firebase account, then you'd have more or less a free trial. But and I don't think and like are you like a non-resource intensive organization would really hit that limit within a large amount of time because the free trial is pretty generous. The base offerings for Firebase are pretty generous. So I mean that could be
Yeah.
like a band-aid until we figure out something else. Because you can just use the fact that other organizations are willing to give free resources until you hit a certain limit.
Okay, I'll try to look into it, and also in the token thing that Peter advised. Um, and if anyone has any better solution, please let me know in 1 or 2 days so that I can start implementing SSL pinning. Moreover, I'll research from my side too. And I would request to please check my pending PRs of that password encryption and the cryptographic packages that I have added so that I can open the PR for the key generation thing as well.
Ravi, can you
Thanks.
contact your mentors directly just to make sure that they are aware of what's going on there for the PRs?
Okay, sure, I will do.
Okay, so that would be really helpful. And I'm thinking about the Firebase thing. It may be best for the Firebase account to have a palisados.org address, just to be on the safe side, so that we can manage it more easily in future. So let's discuss this a little more in the WhatsApp group. If anything, we can create a special account just for that purpose, for creating the Firebase, and I'll give you the authorization stuff for that so that we can get that going, okay?
Okay.
All right, thanks. Good.
Thanks, Ravi.